Hello, all. It's April 3rd now, and just a little bit of a note here on Deuteronomy 25:4. So we're in Deuteronomy, getting close to the end of it. But it says this, a familiar verse: "Do not muzzle an ox while there's treading out the grain." And you guys, I think we sometimes read through the Old Testament, we wonder how a sentence like this can have any application at all to our lives. What is the relevance of something like this? But then you might recognize that this verse is quoted by Paul in the New Testament, 1 Corinthians 9:9. He uses it, and he's talking about the importance of taking care of other people who are in ministry. And he says in 1 Corinthians 9:9, oops, I gotta look it up in my Bible. I was going to do it on my screen here, but it didn't work out. 1 Corinthians 9:9. He says this, do I say these things on human authority? Does not the law say the same? For it is written in the law of Moses, you shall not muzzle an ox when it treads out the grain. Is it for oxen that God is concerned? Does he not certainly speak for our sake? It was written for our sake, because the plowman should plow in hope, and the thresher thresh in hope of sharing in the crop. If we have sown spiritual things among you, is it too much if we reap material things from you? If others share this rightful claim on you, do not we even more? What Paul's talking about there is um, providing support, financial compensation to those who are in ministry, and particularly to himself here. And he says that the law, even when it provides for oxen, that they're allowed to eat the grain when they're treading on that grain, when they're doing the work that's involved in crushing that grain, then those who are in ministry also should be allowed to participate in the work that they do. So even a small, little, seemingly insignificant sentence like this in the Old Testament has principles behind it that are applicable to today. And Paul certainly understood that. One of the things that I think is important to understand when we read Scripture is that Scripture interprets Scripture, that there are places where earlier passages are quoted later on in Scripture, and that gives us a clue as to how we're supposed to use those in our own situations too. So we can draw a principle from this passage in Deuteronomy and apply it to pastors in the first century and beyond as well. And really, anyone who is participating in the work should get to partake of the benefits of that work or that product that's being produced there too. So I think it's important to understand that our Old Testament has relevance even in those small details, and Scripture understands it that way. So we should apply it to ourselves that same way. So that's just a thought for the day.